Well, welcome to the Town of Abingdon, Virginia Planning Commission regular meeting. We appreciate your interest and we encourage public participation in our meeting. Your comments are important to our decision-making process. There will be two opportunities during the meeting for you to address the commission members. The first will come when we ask for public comment not on the agenda. The second will come when there is a public hearing and the chairman opens the public hearing for comment. Anybody wishing to address the commission can do so at either one of those two times. Anyone addressing the commission will approach the podium, give your first and last name and your complete physical address. Comments must be limited to 3 minutes. Roll call.
Mr. Austin? Mr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Thompson?
Present.
Mr. Pennington?
Present.
Mr. Sproles? Mr. Wilson?
Present.
And Mr. Schuman?
Present. The next order of business is approval of minutes. There are two separate minutes. The first one is from April 28th, regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of April 28th?
If I may interject, it seems based on some of the members that were absent and then some that are here tonight, we would not be able to approve these because we don't have a quorum to vote for both minute sets.
Okay,
So I would just
so the
say,
28th we can't.
yeah, the 28th and the May ones we can't based on who.
Oh, either one of them.
either
Okay.
one. Just because of based on who, from what we received
Okay.
just today about who was going to be missing the meeting. So I would just say if you could make a motion to table both those minutes
Okay.
for the July meeting to be approved.
I'll make a motion. We table the minutes until the July meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any additional discussion? If you call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Next order of business is public comments for items not on the agenda. We have one person signed up to make comments, Heather Howard. If Heather's here.
Good.
I'm Heather Howard. I'm actually the chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals, sit with Mr. Schuman, but I'm not here in that capacity tonight. I'm
We
just
need,
here.
could you give us your full address, please?
I am a resident at 416 Fairway Drive here in Abingdon, backside of Country Club Estates. So I'm here today because I have some real concerns about the townhouse project going on behind my house. Commonly known, I think, as the Village at Green Springs. Are you all aware of that? I didn't think you were. You are. Okay. Well, I've been going back and trying to look at your minutes and trying to look at your agenda to figure out what, if anything, about this project has ever been brought before this commission. Some of the minutes I can't even find online, some of the agendas. I'm trying to parse together what your level of involvement in the project has been. We became concerned about 3 weeks ago, on June the 3rd, when trucks rolled up in our neighborhood, unmarked, and men jumped out and started beating on doors. Thankfully, I was not home that day, but many of my elderly neighbors were. One of my neighbors ran to the door, answered it in his boxer shorts. He thought somebody's house was on fire. Come to find out who it was, we found out that that's how the construction project is going to be doing blasting with explosives right next to our backyards. That's how we all found out. We didn't find out anything from the town. The folks that came to Fairway Drive in the unmarked trucks were from a company called VCE Technical. They are out of Nashville, Tennessee. As I did more research on VCE Technical, I learned that VCE Technical has 4 different sides to their business. One side of their business, VCE Technical. The other side, VCE Investigative. The other side, VCE Production. And the other side, VCE Incorporated. Now, VCE Technical is who came to our homes. VCE Technical came to our homes telling us, hey, guess what? We're going to be doing construction blasting, and we're here to give you a free structural survey of your home to make sure that everything is copacetic before we start blasting. Come to find out, VCE Technical was hired by the blasting contractor. Now, we were told by VCE Technical that the blasting contractor is a company called East Carolina Drilling and Blasting out of North Carolina. That's who he said he worked for. A lot of my neighbors let him in. A lot of my neighbors let him do an inspection of their home. We have now found out that VCE Technical, part of that business, VC Investigative, they're expert witnesses that they send to court if the blasting company gets sued. So we found out that there is going to be blasting in our backyards from these unmarked trucks that show up with people beating on our doors, telling us, oh, yeah, we're going to blast. All these homes are in country club estates. They all have basements. 2 of them have pools. We were told by this guy from VCE Technical, oh, well, there's at least 15 structures in the danger zone of this blast. He told another neighbor 22 structures. He told me 15. I asked this man, how is it that you determined that 500 feet is the danger zone around this blast area? Nobody can tell me that. I've been asking this question for 3 weeks. I have been the biggest menace to the town that has ever walked, and I think Gabe can probably attest to that. I want answers, okay? I sent a FOIA request to the town. This is printed, front and back, okay? There is no information in it because everything important has been redacted out. Even the name of the contractors. We're very concerned. We're very concerned that the project is underinsured. We have no idea how many structures are really in the danger zone, 15, 22, maybe more. We have no idea how they came up with this arbitrary 500-foot danger zone rule. But what really concerns us the most is that only the neighbors on my side of the street, on Fairway Drive, got the door beating from VCE. My neighbor across the street, who is closer to the build site than my neighbor 2 doors down, was never notified. Now, it defies common sense that he wouldn't be in the blast zone, but my neighbor further away would be. We want to know what's going on here. We want to know how they determined 500 feet is the danger zone. People need to be able to take action to protect their homes before people start blasting with dynamite. I don't know, I'm sure you all are probably familiar with construction blast damages, but they can be very, very significant to homes and foundations and pools. There's a business, a very large business, Turf Pros, right across the street. There's a whole lot going on here that we are very concerned that you all don't know about. And we want answers.
Well, I think part of the issue would be this is not something that would come before us. Gabe, if you could explain that, because it has to do with subdivisions and by right and so forth, because I don't think we would take any action as a planning commission on this particular situation. Not that I don't share your concerns. I just don't think we're the appropriate body to do anything. And I think Gabe, if you could give Heather some guidance as to where because I mean, she clearly has some concerns that need to be addressed.
And so as I've talked with you, Ms. Howard, that the project has gone through the staff review and everything's gotten all the permits that it needed. The area where it's at now, it's zoned R3, so the townhouses are a by right use that they can do there. They're not subdividing any land, so If they did, it would have been a major subdivision that would have came
Right.
to you, but they're not subdividing any land.
There is a subdivision request in the FOIA documents that I have.
That's a boundary line adjustment.
No, it's a subdivision request.
The subdivision application,
Yeah.
one of the options is a boundary line adjustment. That's what they chose.
And then in an email from you, you stated this plat is not intended to be a boundary line adjustment.
That's probably for a condo plat. They need it to sell the units.
In any event, what I would like for all of you to know is that we on Fairway Drive are extremely concerned. We are being completely stonewalled for information when we ask for it from the town. This is not transparency at all. And I want all of you all, because you hold very important offices here in the town, to represent us as citizens. Please ask questions and find out what is going on here, because everything that I'm getting is not passing the smell test at all. At all. I would very much appreciate if all of you all would do due diligence and ask some questions, because we're not getting any answers as citizens.
So, if you want to wait through this entire meeting, when it's done, I've done tons of blasting on projects. I can tell you generally about blasting and what happens and what they're doing. I don't know specifically what these guys are doing, but I can tell you how it usually goes, if that would be of any help.
And he would be the expert that we would look for on the
But
commission in that.
But it doesn't
regard.
have anything, the whole thing doesn't really have anything to do with the planning commission itself, since
Right.
we did not approve the thing, but as a civil engineer, I can probably address some of your questions so that you understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah, that would be great, because there's definitely crickets when I ask questions from staff. And, you know, this is an issue where we all need to have adequate notice to be able to protect our property. I had to hire a structural engineer at my own expense to come and perform a structural evaluation of my home, simply because I researched the man from VCE and I know who he works for. So he's not the person that I want doing my structural inspection. I'm out of pocket for that, but I'm trying to protect what I have worked very, very hard for my whole life. I feel like there have been multiple OSHA violations, multiple DEQ violations. I'm very disappointed in the oversight that's happened from the town. How in the world is it that there's not, as of June 11th, there wasn't even a proper settlement fence up?
Ms. Howard, we appreciate your concerns, but we have a very busy agenda, and
I know you do.
this particular issue, we can't address as the planning commission. If we could, we would,
I know.
but we can't.
Again, I'm just here bringing it to your attention, calling it out, bringing it to light, bringing it out of the dark of town hall, and asking each and every one of you to perk your ears up, because something is not right here.
Well, just like Mr. Thompson stated, Wilson, Mr. Thompson. It's been a long day. Scott can go over all of the technical aspects of how blasting normally occurs. It is normal process before blasting that you are going to have a survey done by an independent third party of any structure that is going to be in the area. Typically, you have seismographs, things of this nature that will measure all of the flows. And all of this, I'm sure, the town has taken in. But just like Mr. Schuman, Chairman Schuman stated, if you want to stick around afterwards,
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah,
Scott.
thank you very much, and thank you for bringing up the word seismograph, because that reminded me. The
We've gotta
fourth
move on.
side of VCE, they have their own seismograph company, and they calibrate their own. I asked them, how do you calibrate your seismographs? Well, come to find out, they calibrate them in-house, and I do not find that to be trustworthy. Thank you very much.
Ms. Howard, we really need to move
Yes, sir.
on. Thank you. All right, then, next order, is there any other person that has a comment not on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to the first certificate of appropriateness. Dennis Moorfield, 2124 Battle Hill Drive, Bristol, Virginia, 24202. Applicant, Potter Girls Properties LLC, 3072 Waters Edge Drive, Morristown, Tennessee. Owner, certificate of appropriateness for exterior painting, non-illuminated door signage, and non-illuminated projecting signage located at 274 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Parentheses, parcel 011-8-1, in parentheses. Staff report.
Good evening, Caleb Conklin, Planner 1 with the town. Dennis Moorfield, the applicant, and Potter's Girls Properties LLC, owner, have requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the painting of the primary north elevation of the building, installing of a non-illuminated door sign, and replacement of the existing non-illuminated projecting sign. Currently, Bronze and Bling Beauty Bar and Boutique occupy 274 West Main Street. At the October 28th, 2024 Planning Commission regular meeting, the Planning Commission approved the color Sherwin-Williams Berries Galore and a 9-square-foot projecting sign for Mitzi's on Main. The business Mitzi on Main did not remove the existing projecting sign or install their approved projecting sign, but the exterior of the primary north elevation was painted as approved. So the applicant is proposing to paint the existing brick base, wooden clapboards, and wooden trim of the primary north elevation with the paint color Ultra Pure White over the previously approved paint color Berries Galore. And then according to Google Maps Street View, the structure was painted a white color from approximately 2008 to 2013, as shown in that image below. Additionally, the applicant proposes to install the non-illuminated circular vinyl window sign on the front entrance door to the business. The window sign will have a white background with pink and black lettering as shown in the rendering provided, and the proposed window signage does meet the requirements of the B3 district. Then lastly, the applicant proposes to replace the existing pre-finished black metal non-illuminated projecting sign above the business with a pre-finished pink metal non-illuminated metal projecting sign with applied vinyl lettering to that same black metal bracket, and then that will measure 3 foot by 3 foot for a total area of 9 square feet, and then that also does meet the requirements of the B3 district. And then I also have renderings as well to pass around. They'll be represent the color a lot better. Any questions?
Questions from Mr. Conklin? Does the applicant want to say anything? Certainly welcome to if you're here, if you want to say anything. Are there questions, concerns? What's the pleasure of the commission?
I would make a motion that we approve the certificate of appropriateness as presented.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second. I'm sorry.
I'll second.
All right. Gabe, if you call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Aye. All right, next order of business, certificate of appropriateness, Tim Webb, 339 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Applicant, Historical Society of Washington, P.O. Box 484, Abingdon, Virginia, 24212. Owner, Jerry Signs, Inc., 15775 Porterfield Highway, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Representative, certificate of appropriateness for non-illuminated freestanding signage located at 339 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, parentheses, parcel 011-1-75 in parentheses.
Tim Webb, the applicant, Historical Society of Washington County, owner, and Jerry Signs Incorporated representative have requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of the existing non-illuminated freestanding sign. And then currently the travel shop occupies 339 West Main Street. With that replacement, it will be, they will remove the white wooden non-illuminated 4 square foot freestanding sign for the business The Travel Shop, and then replace with a pre-finished blue non-illuminated framed aluminum freestanding sign with applied vinyl graphics hung from the existing pre-finished black freestanding sign structure from the West Main Street entrance. And then that will measure 24 inches by 27 inches for a total area of around just under 5 square feet. And then that will hang from the existing pre-finished black chain links. And then that proposed freestanding sign does meet the requirements of the B3 district.
So basically, he's just
It's
just
almost,
replacing a sign that's,
just a change of material and then the color change.
any questions for Mr. Conklin? I don't guess the applicant wants to say anything. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I make a motion, we approve the COA as submitted.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, you would call the roll?
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Aye. Next order of business, certificate of appropriateness. Annette Reese, 661 East Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, applicant. Neil Linda Gardner, trustee, P.O. Box 1745, Abingdon, Virginia, 24212. Owner, Vance Graphics, 175 Green Mountain Road, Poundingville, Virginia, 24637. Representative, certificate of appropriateness for non-illuminated freestanding signage located at 661 East Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, parentheses, parcel 007-2-B-26, in parentheses.
So currently, ARC Autism Behavior Therapy occupies 661 East Main Street. The applicant proposes to install a pre-finished white aluminum, non-illuminated freestanding sign with applied vinyl graphics near the East Main Street entrance onto the property. The freestanding sign will measure 4 feet by 8 feet for a total area of 32 square feet. The sign will be attached to 2 4-inch by 4-inch by 6-foot painted white wooden posts. The freestanding sign will have a white background with blue and black lettering and a logo as seen in the rendering below. And then that sign does meet the requirements of the B2 districts.
Questions for Mr. Conklin?
What's the height of the sign?
It's going to be 6 feet in height.
Okay.
It'll match with the top of that post.
Okay.
I don't know if the applicant's here or wants to say anything. They can or they don't have to. What does the commission wish to do?
I'd make a motion that we approve the COA as presented.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any additional discussion? If not, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Next order of business, certificate of appropriateness, Travis Penn, 4408 Morningstar Court, Kingsport, Tennessee, 37664, applicant, Medstream Properties, LLC, 76 Peachtree Road, Suite 300, Asheville, North Carolina, 28803. Owner, certificate of appropriateness for a proposed screen smoker room located at 238 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, parentheses, parcel 012-1-127, in parentheses.
Currently, the Abingdon Commons, Tumbling Creek Cider Company, and Delta Blues Barbecue occupy the building addressed 238 West Main Street. The applicant proposes to construct an attached screen smoker room onto the west elevation of the existing rear CMU addition for Delta Blues Barbecue. The new wood frame structure will measure 24 feet by 16 feet and be secured to the existing concrete slab. The wood frame will be constructed with 4-inch by 4-inch by 8-foot natural treated lumber posts and 2-inch by 6-inch natural treated lumber joists. 2 pre-finished white 36-inch by 80-inch screen doors will be used for ingress and egress purposes. Multiple window-like openings will outline the outside walls with a metal mesh covering to provide ventilation and a barrier between the interior and exterior of the structure. And then the structure's roof will be clad in pre-finished gray R-type metal and have a 1-foot overhang. And then 2 pre-finished black metal smokestacks will extend through the roof. Any questions?
I will add, since Mr. Schuman, you asked me this when you picked up your packet.
So the construction's already started, right?
Yes. Yes, it has.
And it started before any approval.
Yes, that is correct.
Is there a building permit? Has that been,
I believe a building permit, I know I spoke with the applicant to submit one so they know the next steps for that. So if they haven't already, then they know that they will have to.
So is there a stop work order?
We did not do a stop work order. We just let the applicant know to turn in an application before any project can continue.
And these are the same guys that built the stage without a permit too, right?
No.
Yes, that wasn't.
No, so if I may interrupt. Sure. This was not the same contracting company that built the stage. This is this was not done by Wahlberg, so as Mr. Schuman, when he picked up
Yeah,
my packet, this was not it. Actually, Nathan Berg called and said, I told them to stop. And so they've stopped, so that's why we didn't issue a stop work order, because we've been looking at it and they did stop work, so there was no need for us to issue a stop work order because they did not continue work on this. So, Mr. Schuman asked me that question when he picked up his pack, and I notified him this is not Wahlberg Construction that started this project. So,
Okay, thank you.
Are any of the posts going to be painted, or is it just natural?
From what we received, it's just gonna be natural, but the applicant can tell you otherwise.
additional questions, comments? I am a little concerned that even though it was a different contractor, you know, the Delta Blues went through this with the stage and then started with no building permit again.
and the applicant's,
Even though it's a different contractor.
and the applicant's here to answer any questions you may have.
Yes.
I'm Travis Penn, 4408 Morningstar Court, Kingsport, Tennessee, 37664. I am the applicant and one of the owners, and we did start with ignorance. We don't want to step on anybody's toes at all. The stage was totally different. That was the Bergs. That was their deal. We didn't know anything about that. We were just trying to build a basic structure to cover. I will say we've been very blessed. The town's been great. We had to purchase another smoker to put back there, so we've been in the rain, the snow, the sun. It's been very hot, and we were just trying to cover it. We were unaware of the processes until somebody brought it to our attention, so we ourselves stopped immediately, like we would not move forward until we went through the proper steps and the proper process to make this happen. So I just want you all to know that we do everything by the book. We didn't realize we were in the wrong, and when we did, we stopped. Also, as far as the exterior, we have discussed painting the wood brown, so that would match the front trellis that's out there, so it would all be cohesive.
Questions for the applicant? Thank you for coming forward.
Yes, thank you.
Additional discussion?
So, I mean, a building permit has not been obtained yet, to the best of our
Not that I know
Correct.
of, not that I know of for this. It might be small enough to where a building permit is not required, but we can touch base with Rick and everything on that. But that would be their next step with this, is to get the building permit if they do need one.
We could potentially approve based with the proviso of getting a building permit, and also if you wanted it painted a certain
Correct.
color, that could be part of the requirement as well. I think if that helps us.
I make a motion, we approve the COA subject to securing a building permit from the town officials and painting as represented, the post, the brown color to blend in and balance the other side,
Yeah, basically to match the trim.
to match the trim on the other side.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, any additional discussion? If not, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Next order of business is certificate of appropriateness, Larry Jones, 24308 Walden Road, Abingdon, Virginia. Applicant owner, certificate of appropriateness, review of improper roof replacement awning, roof cladding, located at 266 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, parentheses, parcel 011-8-4, in parentheses. Now, this is, we dealt with this at the last meeting, and then we decided that it would be wise to have the applicant come forward because the awning does not, it does not match what the Planning Commission approved in previous meetings. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I'll go through the full staff,
Okay.
the full kind of staff report since since you just said you wanted the applicant here, so we really didn't go into much detail. So, with your permission, Mr. Schuman, I'll move forward with that. So, Larry Jones, applicant / owner, have requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of the awning roof cladding on both the primary north and rear south elevations located at 266 West Main Street. Background: the property was purchased in 1937 by E.W. Rambo, where a one-story brick structure was built. The Louis Stretchy Furniture Company moved into the structure in 1937. Hugh L. Sweet and Charles E. Sweet, father and son, owned and operated the business up until 1990. Currently, the structure operates as the Glass Peacock, the Candy Jar, and Emporium of Abingdon. The applicant was previously approved at the October 23rd, 2023 Planning Commission regular meeting to paint the structure with the colors blue peacock, really teal, and copper penny, and to replace the existing crimson painted tin standing seam awning roof cladding with a pre-finished copper steel standing seam roof cladding with the Commission's condition that the roof cladding have no striations. The request was presented to the Commission as a roof cladding with no striations. Access to the site will continue to West Main Street. So like I said, the applicant's October 2023 approved certificate of appropriateness was completed as of May 2025. Staff conducted a final inspection of the project in May 2025 and noticed the replaced crimson painted crimp tin standing seam awning roof cladding on the primary north elevation and the replaced asphalt shingle awning roof cladding on the rear south elevation have been replaced with a pre-finished copper striated steel standing seam roof cladding differing from the presented and the Commission's condition of the replaced roof to have striations. So this is what it looked like previously, the primary one. This is what it looks like now. Staff provided findings to the Planning Commission at the May 19th, so our last meeting, and that's when you wanted the applicant here. So really, the back one that had asphalt shingles, that was not a crimp standing seam metal roof, but the primary one on the front was, and that's where that condition comes into play. And I did review the video recording. It was presented as such to be a standing seam with no striations, and then even the Planning Commission added a condition to it. So, if there's anything for me, more than happy to answer. If not, the applicant is here to address any questions you may have.
Questions for Mr. Gabe? Now, one thing I want to make sure I understand is you got, I think, two issues. One is that the replacement has striations, and that was not approved. But it looks to me like what was approved was a pre-finished copper steel sanding seam, and this is a replaced, it's crimson painted, crimped tin standing seam.
No, so the roof was going to be a pre-finished steel copper. It was just the profile of the metal had to be without striations.
But what's there now has striations.
Yes.
And isn't it finished differently than what was approved?
No, the roof is finished. The roof was supposed to be copper based on their design that they had approved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's just really the striations in between the seams is the issue that you're looking at. That was went against the previous approval.
Okay.
Yep.
The applicant would like to make a presentation.
Larry Jones. I live at 24308 Walden Road here in Abington. I will agree. The roof that we put on does have striations. When I was here back in October of 23, a year and a half ago, I believe Mr. Johnson made the comments about that it should be without striations.
Yes, sir.
My only defense is poor memory. Nothing nefarious intended. Part of it was due to the fact that I will say that when I received the certificate of appropriateness, it just simply said approved as presented with no modifications. So I presented just a standing seam metal roof. There was no discussion on my part about striations or no striations, but during the meeting, it was brought up, and due to the various delays, that was in October of 23, had to wait till spring of 24 before I could get the building painted. Then when I got the building painted, I contacted the roofing contractor, and they approached the town to get the permits to do the roof. And then we ran into difficulty with that because the requirements by the town were onerous enough that the roofing contractor said they couldn't meet those requirements without spending more than the cost of the job to meet the requirements. I contacted another roofing company in Bristol. They came back with the same response. I went back to the town. They gave me the name of someone in Kingsport who might be able to provide safety equipment. I contacted them. That went nowhere. So time continued to go by up until this past May when I just went to my roofing contractor and said, let's just forget it. We'll just leave the roof that's there and just not replace it. And then thanks to Isaiah Thomas, who has come by our business several times and talked with us and so on, he contacted me and said, well, the town's going to be doing some work in front of your building, so if you could get the job done while that work is being done, then we should be okay. So I contacted JS. They ordered the roofing, came out, put it on, and until Gabe came by the evening after as they were putting it on, I was not aware there was an issue. It just totally, there was never any discussion between me and the contractor about striations or not. I'm not sure I knew what striations were at the time. So I've since learned, but my only point is there was no ill intent. I ordered standing seam roof. That's what they brought. That's what they put on, and I thought we were fine. So.
Questions for Mr. Jones?
No, I apologize that you've had, I don't want to say difficulty in working with the town. I'm assuming that was traffic control. And, then with the sidewalk, that just worked out better.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, when you were working with Isaiah Thomas, that was also part of the town's where you could get a grant for facade improvement. Is that correct?
That's right. And I, shortly after I got that approval, I guess maybe in February of 24, I submitted to Tanya Triplett that application for matching funds. And then I have since provided the information, receipts, et cetera, to Isaiah.
And I understand, I think it was presented to the board whenever the town discovered the concern. You had just bare wood up there. So in order to protect what you did have, contractor went ahead and installed what they had in hand. Is that correct, Gabe? or-
Yep, that's correct. So when I got to the site, it was probably like 4:55 or so. The contractor just had finished putting the underlayment and everything on there, and then,
And
That-
storms were coming.
and the storms
it.
were coming, and that's when
I remember
and
that.
that's when I saw the first metal panel they were gonna put up there was the wrong one, and so instead of having the building and the owner incur any more damage to maybe the roof left exposed, since the storms were coming, we had them continue installing this roof, to avoid any damage that might be caused by water, so.
One thing, just to make sure that everybody understands how the facade improvement program works through the Economic Development Authority. If there's an application, the application would be for a matching grant, and it used to be up to $2,500. I don't know if that's still the case. And then the property owner would submit a plan of what they were going to do. It would either be approved or not approved. In this case, it was approved. And then, once the facade improvement was completed, then, as Mr. Jones said, you would have to submit that you completed the project, and then you would have to give receipts to the fact that you matched the $2,500, and then the town would give you the money.
Right.
I just want to make sure everybody on the commission knew what that
Right.
project was, because that's not something we normally deal with here. Additional questions or comments? Thank you.
I'm sorry for the confusion. I guess I would suggest that maybe there's some ways of being more clear, or I don't know. I'll be the first to admit, I went back and looked at videos of that meeting, and I'll agree, I was wrong. I just totally
I
missed it.
typically am pretty clear. Like, but anyway.
Anyway, thank you.
Additional discussion? What does the commission want to do?
No, I mean, the COA, we considered this issue and approved the COA according to a specific set of recommendations and plans. And I understand, there can be some confusion, but there's a reason. No striations whenever you're dealing with historically correct items. HPRB has adopted that guideline, for years now. And, that's the reason it was brought up in the prior meeting. It was approved. And I certainly understand and appreciate there was just some miscommunication at some point, but it wasn't on the part of the board. So as far as the COA, what needs to be done?
Well, as I understanding, if there's no action, then it's not approved.
Yeah. So,
In other words, we don't necessarily have to not approve it, we just don't.
I guess the whole thing is the striation thing, and Jeff, that was your recommendation, and I know nothing about those things, so I'm not sure if that's important or.
It's relative to historic guidelines. The reason for the striations, it's a way to use less material and still accomplish. And that's been an advancement in later years than it was back whenever buildings were originally constructed. I'm one member. My opinion hasn't changed. But, I'll respect the board as well.
so, yes, you can, if you want to come up and just give your full name and your mailing address.
Mailing address is 25083 Watauga Road, Abingdon, Virginia.
And your name, sir?
My name is William Cole. I work with the contractor that did the work, and although I started working with them long after this was contracted and all that, I do want to say that the striations really isn't to use less material because it's more length. It's to make the material stronger so it doesn't oil can. I do have the option to purchase a flat panned standing seam roof that requires signing waivers of both me and, excuse me, the end user. So we elect to not do those, because if you have to sign a waiver, then typically it's not good for the end user because of oil canning, things like that. And I've tried to help Mr. Jones and did see that the plans were approved. Again, I wasn't part of the meeting, didn't see any videos, and didn't know anything about it then, but they were approved approved as presented with no modifications. I don't know how he presented it. If that was in writing, I asked for that, and he didn't feel he had that. And the other thing I wanted to note is, as I was coming through, at least 9 out of the 10 standing seam roofs I saw on Main Street all have striations. I think there may have been 1, possibly 2 exceptions to that. So that's all I wanted to add to, what's about to happen.
Questions, Mr. Cole? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I guess I have a question going back to the issue of the approval of the facade improvement. Would this have been discussed as part of that application? Because I guess my concern is we have an intervening action through the Economic Development Authority on the same property that we're dealing with on the Planning Commission. And I just want to make sure that we're not.
No, so those COAs have, and we have other ones that have actually gone before you recently, or as waivers. That grant conforms to whatever the board or staff, if it's a waiver, approve.
So that would not have any.
No.
Okay.
That's just, the grant is just more to help facilitate projects that happen within the Main Street area or the designated areas to fund those projects, but they are subject to the approval either if it's a waiver, staff approves it, like one today. The waiver you have tonight, that's part of a facade grant, but it's just replacing like for like. This one was more of a change, so it came before you in terms of a COA review. The only thing I would say is if you do choose to uphold the COA as it was presented on October 20, 2023, I would just need a motion saying we're upholding the previous COA as approval. Just for the applicant's awareness, the next step, if they wish to appeal it, would be to go to town council. And then that would be in your letter from this meeting, the kind of steps to do that, if you wish to do that, if they decide to uphold the COA.
What does the commission want to do?
I'm trying to think of roofs in the historic district, and like Sinking Springs got a roof like that. It's just gray, right? Doesn't it have standing seam, like the striations on it? It
Which
used to be
side?
slate, and they took the slate off in like the 90s and put metal roof on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with, and I forgot the second gentleman that spoke. There are existing roofs that have been, over the years, put up with striations. But the Historic Preservation Review Board, several years ago, made the distinction that in most cases that is not historically correct. So I mean, that's what they followed to the best of my knowledge, and that's, I live in a historic home as well. Actually, town of Abingdon was the first, the town council was the first to enact an OH ordinance back in the 1970s. It's the longest in the state of Virginia. So protecting the OH district is very important to the integrity of the town. And, if we're going to be correct, then we're going to be correct. And if not, then, again, that's a decision of the board.
How come the HPRB doesn't have a say on
Because this is not in the OH district, this is in the interest corridor, and this building, there's very few of them left that I would say that have kept some sort of historical integrity. This was one of them.
Yeah.
but on that side of West Main, a lot of, I guess I would call new urbanism happened, where a lot of things were changed to the facades and everything that would make their integrity very compromised. This is one that wasn't compromised, and that's why the approval came from where it did for
Well,
this
again,
building,
I
for this specific
understand-
building.
I understand how things get lost in translation, but this was what was approved. So, I mean,
Well, I
now,
mean, these,
I'm one member.
these buildings right here, I can see have, and those were done not too long ago, right?
I don't know when
I
those
think
were
these
done.
3 buildings in a row.
Well, the one, I don't know about
These
this
are
one.
historic district, I believe, right? They're
Yeah,
this
well,
is-
the one on the other side of this building had a slate roof. And the slate roof was removed, and I don't know if the metal roof has striations or not, but it was, that building, the slate roof was replaced with a metal roof, and that's not been done that long ago.
I think they'll have black metal with the ribs on it.
See, my house has a standing seam metal roof, but it has striations, and I think at the time that was done, the house wasn't in the historic district, because the historic district has
Yeah.
changed significantly over time.
No, you're in the entrance corridor. The reason why this building was viewed like that was because it has historical significance or integrity to it.
It's a contributing structure,
Yeah.
is what the terminology.
So that's why but most of the ones on West Main Street that are in the entrance corridor have been affected or changed to a certain degree, that they don't really have any integrity in terms of historical significance.
But is there any greater, I guess, adverse consequences to letting this roof stand? I mean, other than the obvious, lack of historical integrity, for that building alone? I mean, are there any
No.
larger consequences?
And I will add to this, in terms of, and Mr. Johnson, you know about this, but the building changes over time, and the town's not a house museum, so we kind of go with the period of significance is from our earliest to, the latest, which is 1970 or something like that. And doing research more for other properties, I have found that the roof for this building, the original one was just a flat awning. It didn't have a roof on it. But again, the town's not a house museum, so we honor kind of the progression to 1970, which in 1970 had that 10 standing seam. So that's where that is.
No, I don't, in answer to your question, I don't think there really is, other than the historic, but one of the issues for me is this is what we approved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I understand things sometimes with time, just like Mr. Jones alluded to, it gets spread out and, things are not clear. But, I'm one member. So, I mean, my opinion hasn't changed.
Well, do you want to make a motion to that effect?
Well, I mean, if the board is of a contrary opinion, then I'll just dissent.
Well,
And that's nothing
no,
personal, so.
right. No, but my point is, we need some sort of a motion one way or the other. If whether move to accept it or not accept it, we need to at least have some sort of a
Well, the
vote.
only motion that I can make is let the COA stand as previously presented and approved.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, if that has a second and we vote it down, then that allows him to proceed, or do we need to have a motion actually to approve the COA?
You'd actually need either a motion to uphold the COA, or if it's voted down, you could have another motion that says just to let them continue as is.
If it's the opinion of the board to let it stand, then go ahead and make that motion. And
Well, one thing I think is important is, Mr. Jones has the right to appeal to the town council. And that appeal process, at least in my mind, matters. because I'm in agreement with you that when we have a finding and the COA is approved, I'm uncomfortable going back and just saying, well, gee, that's okay. I know it's tough, but I'm uncomfortable with that. And the
We've already
appeal
done.
process exists so that we're not the last word. And I feel more comfortable with us upholding what we did, even though we are not the last, because we are not the last word.
Well, and excuse me for interrupting previously, but we've already dealt with one issue tonight. We've dealt with others in the past to where things are started, before proper approvals are obtained. We've dealt up the Summers building, up at, the existing Avenue Commons, to where things were changed, from what was approved. And it's the precedence. But, as long as the board is cognizant of that.
We do have a lot of people, all the time I've been on this, that come back and say, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So I understand both sides. I feel for both sides, but.
Well, and by no means, just want kind of a level playing field where everybody knows what to expect whenever they come before the board. Everybody's treated equally. Here are the guidelines. If the COA is approved, then that's what the town expects.
And I will add, we're just helping get the word out for the entrance corridor. We've, as some of you own properties in the old historic district, when I got here about 3.5 years ago, we started doing a letter to the property owners to let them know the process, and that's helped tremendously, I would say. We started doing that this past year with the entrance corridor, since we had a few more upticks. So we are implementing that same process.
Well, in order to move things along, I make a motion that we let the prior approved COA stand as submitted and approved.
Is there a second to that motion? I'll second the motion.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuman?
Next order of business is COA Stone Mill Technology Park Project Review. Sean McMurray, 851 Frenchmore Jr. Boulevard, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Applicant owner, Broadwater Engineering and Geomatics, PLC, 1353 Stone Grove Road, Lebanon, Virginia, 24210. Representative, Stone Mill Technology Park Project Review for exterior and site changes located at 848 Frenchmore Boulevard, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, parentheses, parcel 104-10-9, in parentheses, staff report.
So Sean McMurray, applicant and owner, and Broadwater Engineering and Geomatics representative have requested approval of a project plan review for a new construction. Some background, this property is located within the Stone Mill Business and Technology Park and must adhere to the design standards set forth by the Town Council on December 19th, 2001. So similar to kind of like the Meadows Covenant that you've seen before. Then the applicant proposes to construct a 9-foot, 5-inch by 5-foot, 7-inch addition on the east elevation of the building. The sides of the addition will be black aluminum storefront. The gable will be tongue and groove siding. 2 8-foot by 8-foot posts will support the roof and use a black powder coated post base. The bottom of the lower eave to the sidewalk will be 8 feet in height. A black single light outswing exterior door will be used for the ingress and egress. A new concrete sidewalk will be placed in front of the entrance. And so the building materials used and dimensions specified within the plans meet the requirement of the Stone Mill Business and Technology Park Review Guidelines. For the roof, the gable roof will be extended to match the existing roof. The roof will use the same orange standing seam with striations. The review guidelines encourage slate-like shingles or metal roofing, and the roofs to be gabled or hipped designed. The proposed roof meets the specifications of the guidelines. For parking and vegetation, combined as one, The applicant proposes a new parking lot on the east side of the property to be identical to the existing parking lot on the west side of the property. Parking lot will create an additional 19 parking spaces. Each parking space will be 9 feet wide and 18 feet long, which meet also the requirement of the zoning ordinance. And then the parking lot will have 2 landscape areas as a vegetative buffer to the public right-of-way. Landscape area 1 will include 1 2-inch caliper deciduous tree and 3 18-inch shrubs, with the ground cover being mulch. And the landscape area 2 will include 2-inch caliper deciduous trees and 6 18-inch shrubs, with the ground cover being mulch. And then lastly, the lighting. 1 light pole near the northeast corner of the building will be relocated, and 2 additional light poles installed to mirror the location, make, and model of the 3 existing light poles on the west side of the building. And so in that diagram, the marked red is the existing, and then the blue is the ones proposed.
So I'll just add too, since this is a new area you guys have not looked at since, at least since I've been here. Look, when this PTD was created, this whole area, in 2001, guidelines were made for, as Caleb says, the Stone Mill Business Technology Center. And looking at the minutes, the Plan Commission back then approved the guidelines as they were for this area, but then and then put in there for Town Council to approve if they saw fit for the Plan Commission to be the review board for it. And then in 2001, and then at the subsequent Town Council meeting, the Town Council approved the Plan Commission's decision to be the review board for this area. So just in case if you guys were wondering, because you haven't seen any projects for this area, one has never come before us since I've been here, and then it's also that this is a new project. So
I think at one time, the modification of what's now the Government Center came before us, and there was at least one time when there was an approval of, when Alpha owned the building, there was an approval of an addition to the side of it, which was never built.
Yep.
So the commission has had a couple of shots at different things.
Yep,
Now, I think this is the old Spiegler Blevins building, is that
It is.
correct?
I believe so, yes, yes.
It is.
So just to kind of notify any of the other board members that maybe weren't on when those came through, just kind of the background of why you're seeing it.
Well, I'm sort of a historic district all to myself. Sean, do you want to say anything? I mean, you don't have to, but or you can.
Thank you, folks. This is Sean McMurray, 21523 Carol Jane Lane, Abingdon, Virginia. This is going to be the new home of the Wellspring Foundation of Southwest Virginia. It was formerly the Spiegler Blevins building, and we are embarking on just a few minor modifications on the interior to better meet our purposes. If you look at the building from the street, on the left-hand side, that wing used to be all offices and fairly dense office space. We're opening that up so that it's one larger multi-purpose meeting room. And then this parking lot will allow people who come from the community to attend any meetings, because we often facilitate meetings to have the community talk about various issues and challenges. That's the extent of our plan.
Questions for Mr. McMurray? Thank you.
I have a question,
Oh.
but I don't know if
Yeah.
you can answer it, or maybe.
You may
your
need the engineer.
In the PDF that we got, the package, there was a set of civil plans that did not have Pond B. It just had a ditch going down. And then there was a second set of plans that did have this Pond B. And so I'm wondering if that was just
It might have been a revision in different plans. That's
because
that-
they both had the same date. All the plans had the same, it was like March of something. So I was just, I mean,
I will defer to the engineer.
Greg Broadwater with Broadwater Engineering and Geomatics. It's 1353 Stone Bruise Road, Lebanon, Virginia, 24266. There was a late revision sent in last week that had both ponds A and B on it.
okay.
So I don't know if the package that I pulled off the website, it did look like there was 2 sets of plans in that package. The revision block should have been updated for the one sent in last week.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure I was seeing the right thing, so that's fine. Thank you.
And the reason why could be because some revisions had the stuff that you guys needed to review, and the other ones had other ones based on landscaping. But the applicants have gone through the land disturbance and everything with Hagan Gill. He's been looking at that. And also this has gotten a building permit. They've started work on the interior. And then,
demolition.
yep, and then they've just been holding off on the exterior because that comes under your purview. Sure. So they've gotten all the other permits. This was kind of their last step for the whole process. So.
Okay.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve as presented.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
All right. Next order of business is a public hearing. Certificate of Appropriateness and Parking Waiver, Mark Kaiser, 619 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, applicant owner. Certificate of Appropriateness for the allowance of unapproved fencing and parking reduction waiver located at 619 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, parentheses, parcel 018-3-15, in parentheses.
So if you guys remember, this was presented for the unapproved fencing, and then you guys wanted the parking waiver to be advertised so you guys could put that all together. So Mark Kaiser, owner applicant, have requested approval of certificate of appropriateness for the allowance of an unapproved fencing in front of the primary south elevation of the structure and a waiver for the reduction of parking spaces. Currently, Kaiser Furniture Company occupies the structure. A stop work order was issued on May 6, 2025, when staff noticed fencing was being installed without an approved ECCOA permit. So with that fencing, they proposed it to be installed seasonally during the months of April through September to store outdoor furniture and allow for entrance/exit from one of the showrooms. The fencing will be pre-finished black aluminum, 5 feet tall, extending from the structure 22 feet and following parallel to the structure 83 feet. And then so according to the zoning ordinance, chapter 44-8-2-9, -1-2-A, walls and fences, no fence or wall between a street and a front building line shall be more than 4 feet in height. Staff recommends that the proposed fence meets the 4-foot requirement of the zoning ordinance regardless of temporary seasonal installation. And then, according to that ordinance of walls and fences, chain link fencing shall only be allowed on lots within business or PD zoning districts where chain link fencing is not visible from any street right-of-way. So the chain link fencing shall be coated with black or dark green vinyl. Where opaque fencing is required, the chain link fencing may include black or dark green opaque slats. Staff recommend the proposed fence type meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance of not being chain linked due to the visibility of the proposed fencing from West Main Street. And then the unapproved fencing will remove 9 of the parking spaces. So this is that parking waiver. So with the zoning ordinance of Chapter 44, Table 8.1 or 8.3.9 minimum off-street parking requirements, a retail store requires 1 parking space for each 250 square feet of floor area. And so with that land card that we looked at, there was a floor area of 24,000 square feet, so we require around 97 off-street parking spaces. And then that existing parking already has 50, so that's grandfathered in. But now that they're changing it, they are now looking to get a waiver for that parking, so that it requires public notice and advertisement, and that would go before you. And then, if approved, it would go before town council for a final approval.
Questions for Mr. Conklin? If not, does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Gary Kaiser, 18173 Westminster Avenue, Abingdon. I have to mirror what some of the previous people had said. I do apologize. It was out of pure ignorance. Actually, until the day that I actually had scheduled for the fence to be up was the first piece of paperwork I've ever seen that had a certificate of appropriateness from the town. So I
I have been in that position for 20 years. I've had previous uncles that owned the business. Not saying that it didn't go through their hands, but that was my first idea that this did exist. We were doing the fence temporarily just to expand our floor space. Since COVID, outdoor furniture sort of picked up a little bit. It's sort of hard to take your floor space of what's your main selling product, so we were just hoping to expand on that. Something like this, the reason we did the 5-foot was to help us possibly deter losing any of that merchandise in the evenings. We are totally open to suggestions from the board as far as we can lower the fence if you all were to allow that. And then if the parking was an issue, we do have the capability of moving those 9 spots to the back of the building. Then we also have the ability to lease more parking up on top of the hill where we do have another corporation that has available parking during the day. So I'm willing to answer any questions. But
Any questions for Mr. Kaiser?
What is the actual fence? I see pictures of fence posts, but I don't, is it?
It's going to be just your basic black aluminum fence. It was designed to have finials. We were trying to do something nice, even though it was temporary.
I mean, you're talking something you can see through it all?
It is. It's a
Like
slatted,
pickets or something?
just picket style, the small half-inch, even if that. And it does have the bottom support bar and the top support bar.
Kind of think of something maybe that on a bigger scale that the Martha has in front of them, like the finials that up
Okay.
top and the bottom bar and the top bar, kind of like that sort of thing with square pickets, if you're thinking about that.
And then as pictured here, we were going to have a swing open gate where we could load and unload.
So are you talking about, like, literally storing stacks of furniture, or you're displaying?
Displaying it with,
Okay. That
so
makes more
there'll be
sense.
dining room suites out there with the tables, and then, sort of lines of Adirondack chairs, stuff that's able to withstand elements.
Because reading this, it seemed like you guys were going to have like hundreds of chairs and stuff.
No,
That's
it's
for
not a storage,
storing it.
it's for retail
You're
display.
showing it, yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
I keep hearing the term temporary. These are bolted into the asphalt.
Correct, yes.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding temporary. Is this put up in the spring and then taken down, or is that?
It's a seasonal, so our plans were to start putting it up in April, get everything displayed. As the season rolled down, we'll put it back into our warehouse and put the fence up for the year.
So the fence is actually going to be coming up and going down?
Yes, sir.
The reason
And-
why I had it came before you, which temporary and art, like with signs and everything, it's 30 days. So because this is a seasonal thing, even though it's temporary in the seasonal sense, it's more than temporary than what we would view as temporary. So that's why it has to come before you.
Mr. Kaiser, you also said there's a gate for loading and unloading. Does that further constrain parking spaces being able to get, see what I'm saying in terms
Yeah.
of?
It's to open on the inside, so.
So we're not affecting, okay. So we're not
on
affecting.
the other side,
Okay.
it would be opening, you have the previous picture?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the second or third one over, we were going to have the gate open to the inside,
Okay.
so it won't affect any more than.
You don't see it as a drive up, this is,
No, it's not
Okay.
it's just for us to be able to
okay.
get merchandise in and out.
Additional questions?
Relative to the parking lot waiver, that was going to be one of the questions that I wanted clarification from the town with your building up top. Has the town ever done anything of that nature that you're, as far as lease parking spaces?
The parking waiver is just to say like they can decrease their parking. That's up to the applicant if they want to lease some spaces. Now, I will ask you this question, Mr. Kaiser. Have you seen, if with the addition of this, if you were to take away those 9, would you have any parking issues since you're there every?
In the 20 years I've been here, I've maybe seen 3 days that the parking lot was totally full.
Yeah, so.
But, we do have the capacity in the back where our loading docks are. We really only use one loading dock. So we went back and sort of measured out, and we can get 9 spots back there.
Yeah. The reason why I just asked that question is because even with these 9 maybe taken away, the parking lot is substantial enough to still, allow the business to operate as usual.
Yeah.
So the waiver's just the thing, just to have it on paper to say, they can take away those 9 and it would still be good.
I know,
The
I've
waivers,
never had a problem
Yeah.
parking.
Yeah.
I go in there.
the waiver's just there just in case if if there wouldn't be an issue like in this case, most of the time with our parking lots or businesses, they have suitable parking or on-street parking in the OH or EC, so they don't need it, but just because it's a reduction, they need to go through the waiver process. That's why I asked that question, just to make sure.
Thank you for clarifying.
Additional questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you for your time.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing now for anybody from the public who wishes to comment. Is there anybody here from the public wishes to comment about? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. And open the floor to discussion from the Planning Commission. I think one of the things that was an issue is whether or not any of the adjoining businesses had an objection to the proposal from Mr. Kaiser. And of course, we have heard none.
I will say just on the record that I heard one call, but they had no objection.
Okay.
So they just asked what was the plan, and I told them.
Because I think that was a concern at the last meeting, is that we didn't know whether there would be an objection.
That was with the waiver, yeah, because that would require
Yeah.
public noticing, because it has to go before town council. But aside from the one where it was just more of an inquisitive thing, not even a complaint, it was more just like, what's their plan? And they were like, yep, fine, go for it. So there was no complaints for this proposal. Again, the only one was what from staff could see from the height of the fence, and then Mr. Kaiser, clarified the design, and the design meets what would be allowed in these districts, given the visibility. So the only issue that we saw in terms of what the ordinance requires is the height of the fence. But other than that,
And the definition of temporary is the other.
yeah, the definition of temporary is the 30 days, like signs are like temporary signs are 30 days. So there was one sign for the farmers market that's up at certain times and everything, all that. They had to go before the HBRB because it was more than 30 days that it was going to be up for. So if you want to put in your motion, the fencing can be up from April through September, unless Mr. Kaiser, you're thinking you want a different kind of time frame. You can put that in your motion to where the fencing can be up during the certain months and then taken down. There's certain conditions you can put in there.
What does the commission want to do?
I think the only condition that I can think of right now is whether or not those 9 spaces could be replaced in the rear, like you've offered.
Well, in order to do that, what I think you could do is just put a sign that says additional parking and just directing people to the additional parking. So if you had the 9 spaces and the sign, I think that might take care of the issue.
No, just like Mr. Wilson has stated, I mean, in all the years that I've lived in Abingdon, I haven't seen parking as an issue. No disrespect or anything.
I think
So-
it's the nature of the business. If you were operating something that, that they need space for stuff there, I don't think,
Yeah.
I don't think that's, I agree.
Well, and since there's been no objection from any property owners or business owners that are beside or across from Mr. Kaiser's operation, I mean, that would concern me, but there has been no.
Yes, sir.
I guess with regard to the height of the fence, I mean, do we feel like adhering to the current standard of 4 feet is preferable?
That can be part of the motion for sure.
Yeah.
And Mr. Kaiser indicated that wasn't a problem for him.
The only concern is security.
Yeah.
I personally don't see a problem with having a higher fence there for that purpose, but it's just me.
you want to put that in form of a motion?
Well, yeah, I'll move we approve the entrance corridor certificate of appropriateness. The height's already in here, so.
So I would just say as 5 feet or 4 feet, whatever you. want, just to be clear.
It's as 5 feet, yeah, it's in here, it's
Okay.
5 feet, I believe.
Okay.
Is that right, or is that the width of the gate?
No, 5 feet's
No,
correct.
that's
5 feet.
5 feet, yeah, so, yeah, I'll make that part of the motion, the 5-foot height. Is okay.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All right. Any additional discussion?
Just, I guess one question, I mean, do we have any concern about precedent in terms of that fence height?
Well, it seems to me it's like,
I mean, I know
If
it's
a-
temporary,
if,
you know,
you know,
seasonal
if,
or whatever, but.
Gricos wanted to put that little area out there for people to eat.
Mhm.
It's similar idea, it's just for furniture, so to me, it's not, I don't know.
If you wanted to be
I'm not-
more specific, you could say, based on, because this is a seasonal, temporary measure for security reasons, you know, you could put more findings in there than just because it says 5 feet, you know, you could.
Well, it's already been seconded, so we can't really change it, but the request
Mhm.
says it's seasonal.
Mhm.
And so the approval, I would think,
Mhm.
would therefore be it's seasonal
Mhm.
with the dates that are already in there.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying on the record, with
Yeah,
that would be part of the conversation.
Could I ask that you amend that motion slightly to include that their sign to note the additional parking so that we go back to the 50 spaces?
Which entails them actually painting
Yeah,
the additional spaces out back.
right.
So I don't know how the parliamentary procedure works, amending
I would,
something after it's been seconded, so.
I would just say, I wish to amend my
Ah,
previous
yes,
motion.
I'll amend my second.
All right.
in relation to
I
that.
I wish to amend to include, they need signage just to designate where the additional parking is and have that parking designated with the proper paint stripes.
Thank you.
Mr. Pennington, do you amend your second?
I'll amend my second.
All right. If you would call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Aye.
Just to follow up, so I make sure we're clear, do I need to file for the signage that we do put?
No, it's just for parking.
Okay.
So it's a minor sign.
Okay.
All right, the next order of business
Yeah.
is a request for zoning, for a zoning map amendment. William K. and Nikki Jo Bradley, 134 Fulkerson Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Applicant Carolyn M. Atkins, 391 Nicholas Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Owner, zoning map amendment to rezone 391 and 397 Nicholas Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, from limited industrial district M1 to high-density residential district R3, located at 391 and 397 Nicholas Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210, parentheses, parcel 014-10-8, comma, 014-10-9, and 014-10-10A, in parentheses, staff report.
So a subdivision application was submitted into staff regarding a boundary line adjustment for those 3 parcels. Currently, the building address 391 Nicholas Street is a commercial use as a personal service, and the building address 397 Nicholas Street is a residential use as a single-family dwelling. So currently, the structure address 391 Nicholas Street is located across parcels 014-10-8 and 014-10-9, and the building address 397 Nicholas Street is located across parcels 014-10-9 and 014-10-10A. All 3 parcels are zoned Limited Industrial District, or M1. The submitted boundary line adjustment plat surveyed by Addison surveyors indicates the middle parcel is being divided, so both the structures and buildings would be on their own parcel. And then the proposed boundary line adjustment meets that R3 district, parcel minimum lot area, minimum frontage, lot width, and minimum yard setbacks. Within the limited industrial district, in a single-family dwelling is not a permitted by right use, and then 397 Nicholas Street would be considered a non-conforming use in the M1 district. Per the zoning ordinance 44-9-1-4, non-conforming structures may not be reconstructed, relocated, altered, or expanded in any manner, including the addition of new accessory uses. The applicant proposes to rezone the property to high-density residential district R3, which would bring back the single-family dwelling into conformity with the zoning ordinance. And then within the limited industrial district M1, a personal service is an allowed use through the obtainment of a special use permit. This would be considered a non-conforming use in the M1 district. The applicant is wanting to convert that commercial space to a single-family dwelling through a change of occupancy, which will require a building permit approved by the Town of Abington Buildings Department. And then a rezone from M1 to R3 would be necessary for the applicant to have a change of occupancy. And so through our zoning ordinance, we have 6 kind of guidelines that we would look at. So the first one is consider the proper relationship of such amendment to the entire zoning plan. And then through staff finding, a rezone of the 3 parcels from M1 to R3 would result in 397 Nicholas Street to become a conforming use, and 391 Nicholas Street becoming a contingent conforming use, with the next step being a change of occupancy based on the current zoning ordinance. And then we would consider the integrity and validity of the zoning districts described in this chapter. Each building meets the required R3 district minimum lot area, frontage, lot width, and minimum yard setbacks through the submitted boundary line adjustment plat. And then next would be avoid isolated, unplanned spot zoning changes in the zoning district map. So the adjoining properties on the south side are zoned high density residential district R3, so the request would not be considered spot zoning. The fourth one, recognize that a certain element of stability is desirable in land use controls, but conditions and standards will change. So 397 Nicholas Street will not change in use. Through the change of occupancy, 391 Nicholas Street will become a less intensive use than it is currently. And then for number 5, consider the right of all citizens to be treated reasonably. Adjoining property owners have been notified of the applicant's request according to the Virginia Code Section 15.2-2204. And then number 6, evaluate all changes based on the comprehensive plan in a comprehensive analysis of community conditions, and then this request aligns with the Abington Comprehensive Plan. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Conklin? So basically what we're doing here is taking 3 structures and
2 structures on 3 parcels.
Okay, and they're going to become single-family dwellings?
Yes, yep. One is already single family, the other one will convert to single family through that chain of occupancy.
This is pretty straightforward and clean as far as I've.
Yeah.
And they've already gone through the plat to make sure everything matches and everything, but if they wanted to add anything onto the building that's already single family or add an accessory like a shed or anything, they would need to be zoned R3. So this is to allow the property owners to continue to develop their property in accordance with the ordinance if they so wished.
So I will move that we make a recommendation to town council to approve.
I will have to open up the public hearing.
Public
first.
meeting.
Amendment.
We gotta
I'll
open
do
up
that
the-
as soon as the public hearing is closed.
Try to open that up first.
I didn't notice that this was exactly a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
You need to pound the gavel there.
Yeah. Okay, does the applicant wish to make a presentation? All right. If not, I'm going to open the public hearing.
Back again, Heather Howard, 416 Fairway Drive. I do have some comment. You know, it would have been really nice if the town would have let me and my neighbors know when a 57-unit townhouse development was planned in our backyard. We didn't get any notice. Nothing. Not one single thing. And this has been going on now, this village at Green
This is
Springs
for- this
for
is-
years.
this is
Ms.
for
Howard,
items
this
only
is a
on
public
this.
hearing. As
For this.
And my
particular
point
thing.
is,
it's a public hearing for this particular rezoning application.
right, and my point is, Why did we not get notice?
They didn't rezone.
This is a separate matter that we're talking about right now.
Well, in any event, I digress. Thank you.
All right. Any other?
I have one. So I got a phone call, and this person that called in does want this on record. Tony Lloyd from 381 Nicholas Street called in, questioning, because we have to put out that public notice sign
Right.
out there, wondering if it was going to be a commercial space, and he did not want any commercial at there. I explained to him what was going to happen, what the applicant is requesting. They're wanting residential, single family. You're only going to have residential when you change it to R3. Then he did state that he wants this in the minutes, that he doesn't want any, that he's sick, that he doesn't get out much, and that he doesn't want a lot of residential use, and he doesn't want children running in the roads. And that is what he has stated.
All right. Any additional?
R3 is higher density housing, and I see no need to change if it's going to be single-family homes. To me, it does appear to be spot zoning.
Well, right now, it's light industrial, so it's not, this actually moves it to residential from,
So why would it not be R2?
R3 is across the street, so that's why they can zone to R3. So
that's why it's not spot zoning.
So what they could do now, if they wanted to, is turn it into townhouses in R3.
if they have enough land.
Thank you.
Additional public comment? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. And ask what the commission wants to do.
As I said earlier, I would make a motion that we recommend approval to town council for the zoning map amendment.
I second it.
All right. Any additional discussion? If not, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuman?
Old business matters not on the agenda. I notice there's a waiver, but I don't think we have to do anything with that.
Nope, they're just replacing like for like.
Okay. Any announcements?
No, that's all. No.
Okay.
that's just
Is
all.
there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.